Hello friends, everyone probably knows that I'm more into Stable Diffusion, but Midjourney V5 is really pretty cool and it can do great hands. By the way, what happened to the handyman when he lost his hands? He became an army man. I also have another great one for you today, but we'll do that one in a bit. So we're starting off with this post-apocalyptic scene, and this is a V4 image. And while it is a great image composition-wise, and you have the beautiful sunset and the lighting here, what has been lacking in V4 compared to V5 are the details. So if we have a quick look at the V5 here, which is the exact same prompt, it's basically just a post-apocalyptic warriors in a sand settlement in the sunset. You can see that in all of these 4 images, they're much more detailed. You can see a lot of fighters in the background. There's a lot more going on in general. And that is really the power of Midjourney V5. It's much, much more detailed. Now, V4 has this creative look that V5 isn't really nailing yet, but it can if you're prompting well with it. So it requires a little more prompting skills in V5. And when I say prompting skills, it means you have to rethink how you're prompting. They have something called, they've now improved the natural language processing. And let me show you here on the official Midjourney Discord. Improved natural language processing NLP. In V5, your prompts will benefit even more from being written in the form of sentences rather than lists. For example, an astronaut floating in outer space may produce more predictable results than astronaut floating outer space. Just write like how you'd talk to a human. And they also say more powerful prompting. So in V5, focus on prompting what you want to see using a mix of brevity and relevance. Every word you use needs to be highly relevant because the effect of tokens is greater. So this means skip all the filler words and try to explain more what it is that you're looking for. Now V5 is still an alpha test, but in general, it is more detailed and, well, almost better at everything. It's just a little less creative, but as long as you prompt in the new style, you can get around that. So here's another example of V4 to the left here and V5 to the right. So I wanted a scene with lots of light coming through fog or mist or steam. And to the right here, we have forest most of the time. And we have the light coming from the sun. It's a beautiful settings, all of them. Now the fog or the steam turned into a train in the left one. And I mean, that could work as well. But I feel that what we have on the right is much more beautiful, to be honest. But that's very subjective. And something that, as you'll notice when you're using that as well, is that all the images are upscaled from the start, which means that generations will be a little slower, but your finished images will be better and the upscales won't need any, time since they're already finished. It will take more of your fast time tokens though. Here's an example again of V4 to the left and V5 to the right. And this is a Studio Ghibli setting. If you zoom in a little bit on both of them, you can see that the detail, especially in the face and the hands here, and it's a little jarbled and messed up. But with the V5 model, it's actually pretty great. You can even like check the stacks of books here and just the minute details here. You can actually see what it's supposed to be. Like the stacks of books and this might be some sort of a clock, and the plant here is not just a mess. You can actually get more detail than what was available before. Like the notes on the wall here, everything. And that's super cool with V5. You're getting a lot of detail in a kind of different sense. The details were still available in V4, but just a little messier. And we can see here, we're now looking at the Midjourney Community Showcase, and we have the recent images. So most of these are V5. You can see that the photorealism is much better than previously. And a lot of images will be photorealistic unless you prompt for something else. You can see all the faces here. These are just recent. But there's some great images here, and that this flower here is very close to a photo. The eye here in the middle is very nice as well. So in general, the detail and the realism is much, much better in V5. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's not as creative as V4. And while I agree, like we talked about previously, you can get there with prompting. So I don't necessarily feel that's a bad thing. Here's another example where V4 is on the left and V5 is on the right. And here's some more of the creative inputs that we're talking about. The V4 has this dramatic look. And if you zoom in on these, you can see that, well, they're okay-ish, but they're not great. Especially if you look at the skin, it's not really where it's supposed to be. You have some texture in it, and this one's better actually. The others were more smooth. To compare that to what's going on here, you still have some sort of a weird texture, but the overall skin is much, much better, and the realism of the characters. The left ones are like, these are obviously models, but these feel more real. They're like real people. Especially this one looks pretty great, to be honest. This is a little too messed up, but as long as you don't zoom in, I mean, that's fine. And I mean, these aren't the upscale. This is the 4-in-1 images. So we're zooming pretty much here. But if I were to guess which set of 4 were real and which were fake, I would guess the right one were real, because they just feel more alive. We have 3 people looking to the right, but apart from that, they're a little different. The ones on the left, they're all pretty similar, to be honest. Now, another big change is the aspect ratio. And they say here, broader aspect ratio options. In V5, you can create much wider and much narrower canvas sizes. Try any aspect ratio you like. And that's pretty cool, especially if you want to create something like a super wide panoramic. You're no longer limited in the aspect ratio. Now, 4C implemented a lot of new aspect ratios, but unlimited, that's pretty great. So it also means if you have like a pixel size, I have banner in, whatever, you could take that same size and use that as an aspect ratio. Let me show you a quick example. So first I put in panoramic space landscape of swirling space nebula, and I put in aspect ratio 50:1. And first it didn't work because I didn't put in the V5. I had the old V4 put in. But as soon as you set in V5, that works. You can see here as it's rendering that this is a super wide kind of thing. And if you don't want to type --V5 all the time, just do settings and press in MJ version 5. You might also want to click in remix mode. We're going to have a look at that as well. All right, so our render has finished, and now we can see our 50:1 images. This one's pretty cool. I like both of those. Those are nice. These are kind of meh. These are nice. Anyway, I wanted to show you the remix thing. So let's check that. Let's say I have this image here, and I want to make a variation. Say I want the number 2 here. And if I have remix checked, and I press here V2, I get this little box. And now I can change. So it changed this into old man. And we need to change she to he and her to his. So instead of just giving us new variations, we're getting new variations also with a new prompt. And we're going to need to scroll down to see this. You can see here at 0% that we have some sort of base image, and now it's going to try to recreate this with an old man. Now, it's not as powerful as what you have in Stable Diffusion, but if you're a Midjourney user or playing with both tools like I am, then this is pretty cool. While I do love Stable Diffusion for most users, I feel both of them have their use cases. Sadly, Midjourney isn't free, but it is what it is. And here we can see that it turned into an old man instead. Kind of messed up some of the hands, but doesn't matter. Here's an example again with V4 to the left and V5 to the right, and I prompted fish in coral reef with sunken pirate ship. Now with the V4 it turned creative and merged the fish with the ship. In V5 it kind of forgot about the fish and now it's just a ship. But in general you can see that it's giving us more details on the ship. Hey, if you saw some of my previous videos, you remember I had an image with Sean Connery, and I have a joke for you here. What do you call a fish wearing a bow tie? Sophisticated. And here we have, again, V4 to the left and V5 to the right. And this is a cherry-picked image out of 4, but at least we can cherry-pick hands in V5. I'm going to show you a non-cherry-picked 4 as well, but in the V4, we're not getting any good, actually. They are all pretty non-usable. We can't do anything with it. But in V5, we actually got one of the 4 where she is giving us a peace sign. And even with Stable Diffusion and ControlNet, this can be quite hard to accomplish. I mean, you can do hands and some kind of poses as well. But, you know, I figured the peace sign is one of the harder ones in my opinion, because you have the thumb crossing over the 2 of the fingers there and you have, well, you get the point. And here's an example where it's non-cherry-picked V5. And there's a man here holding up his hand. Apart from this thumb here and these fingers here, I think they're all pretty good. This hand's great. This hand's good. And except for, I mean, this could be fixed and this needs a redo, but compared to what we have on the left, we're doing great progress. And most of the time, you're getting great hands straight out of the box. And that's very nice indeed. So that was basically the main features of V5. I'm just going to show you image weight as well, since that's something. And I used Olivia's face here, a good friend Olivia Sericas, who has his own YouTube channel. Go check him out. And what you can do, if you put --IW2, it's a value between 0.5 and 2. And if you have an input image, like I have, well, this one, you can say how much you want to keep from the input image. Now, this man doesn't look like Olivia at all, but that's not the point here. You actually get the same composition that you have in Olivia's photo. So we have a man with a red beard and our baby lion pet. Now, it's not a baby lion pet because our image weight is too high. But if you can see down here, we have a lower image weight. And now we have the red-bearded man with his baby lion pet. Now we've lost all resemblance of the original image, but you can play with this value and see what you can do with it. That was just a quick look at image weights, so between 0.5 and 2. That was a quick look at Midjourney V5, and I think it's pretty cool. As always, have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.